I'm Andrew Ramey, the history advisor, here with our department head, Professor Nico Slate, to talk about his brand new course, COVID-19, What History Can Teach Us. This is a special 1 week only micro course. It'll be offered remotely, worth 3 units, and it's going to take place from November 7th through November 13th. Professor Slate, what inspired you to teach this course?
That's a great question, Andrew. Thank you. All of us have been touched by the pandemic. It's transformed so many facets of our lives. Yet, how often are we able to take the time to think about what it all means? In these strange and troubling times, I believe we all have a responsibility to come together as a community to engage the epic challenges we're all facing and to learn from each other how to confront those challenges. And that's what I hope in this course.
And we've heard a lot from public health experts, scientists, economists, some politicians. How do you think a historical perspective can inform policy responses to this?
Well, forgive me for starting with a cliche, but I think it is true that if we don't learn from the mistakes of the past, we're doomed to repeat them. Think about some of the biggest questions people are grappling with throughout much of the world. How should we weigh the costs and benefits of closing businesses or schools? How can we best navigate these times of economic recession? How can we hold a fair election in the midst of a pandemic? These are all huge questions that people have grappled with in the past, and I think we can learn from their successes and also from their failures.
That's wise words. I think something students don't often realize is how much effort goes into creating a course, even just like a small 1 week course. It's not like we pull these things out of our heads. A lot goes in. Was there something that surprised you that you learned while preparing for this course?
Oh, a lot did, and I'm still learning. Let's see. Here's one thing. The Norwegian artist Edvard Munch, the guy who painted The Scream, produced several paintings in response to his own experience of living through the 1918 influenza pandemic. And I love them. I love them. I've always found The Scream interesting, but some of these paintings are just amazing, particularly the first one. And I think you're showing an image of it now. The first painting in which Munch portrays himself struggling with the virus and yet somehow so dignified and resilient. Now, I'm looking forward to talking with the students in this course about the way that previous pandemics generated new forms of art and new ways of thinking. From the classic novella Pale Horse, Pale Rider to the nonviolent civil disobedience of Mahatma Gandhi to the art of Edvard Munch. The world was shaped by that 1918 pandemic in rich and complicated ways. Sometimes from the deepest sorrow comes the richest and most profound art.
This is so impressive. I'm glad that we got to do this interview. I've learned a lot already. I really want to take this course. A question I get a lot from students as an advisor, though, is how much work is it? So, what can students expect in terms of workload for this 1 week course?
That's a great question and an important one. Students are going to be asked to watch pre-recorded lectures by CMU faculty and guest speakers and to read short accompanying texts, both historical documents and short articles. Our synchronous course time, the time we're all together, will include small group conversations via Zoom, some online discussion boards, and opportunities to ask questions of both CMU faculty and guest speakers. One important thing to note, there will be some flexibility in regards to attendance of the synchronous sessions for students with course-related or work-related conflicts. And then the course is also going to include a short 2 to 3 page essay and a personal reflection in the form of a letter to a future historian about COVID-19. Think about a time capsule, those things where you bury stuff in the ground and people discover it years later. A sort of short personal reflection that you could stick in a time capsule for later.
That sounds like a good deal to me, and I know I'll be recommending that to all my advisees. But for someone who doesn't have that benefit, how would you sell this? If you were not a history major, why should a student take this course?
Well, in less than a week, this course will give you a 3-unit opportunity to dive deep into one of the most pressing problems facing the world today. And in addition to historians, the course will feature a public health expert who works on the front lines of the epidemic, an architect who thinks about the public health implications of urban design, and a filmmaker and anthropologist who's engaged the unique struggles of migrants and refugees in the midst of the pandemic. Now, all of us have been touched by the pandemic, as I said at the outset, but we haven't all been touched in the same way. And this course will give us a chance to learn from each other and to grapple with what we can all do to navigate these times and to work together, but not just to survive, but ultimately to build a better world.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.